Hey everyone, how's it going? Shuffle's back here with another video, and we are back today with the best REM video. Keep in mind, she just got released within the last 24 hours, so I'm sure the builds on these are going to get better and more fine-tuned, but I saw everybody is putting out their REM videos, so I figured I would put one out as well. I have my own build, I have somebody else's build for you guys to see, and we have a quick clip of her, and I'll give you my thoughts on her as well. Um, so probably just go in that order. Let's jump over into game here. All right. So you can see I got very lucky with my summons. I got all the new characters, even the Penelope. We're going to be using all 4 of these units in Guild War tomorrow on stream. If you guys want to check that out, it will be on Twitch at twitch.tv/fivefingershuffle. But for today, all we're going to focus on is the REM. I'll show you my build first. She's not finished yet. Literally all I did was I took my Ravi gear and I put it on her. Why is this taking so long to go into my inventory? There we go. Unfortunately, I am missing a couple of the catalysts in order to finish her off. So she's only 5-star awakened, but here is her stats. She's a 4100 attack with 13.5k HP, 1150 defense, 154 speed, 261 crit damage. And I've got her on Scythe. So I'm kind of using her in more of a bruiser-ish role. She can also work, I guess, in cleaves, but with the speed we have, I wouldn't use her that way. She's on speed and immunity with attack, attack, and crit damage. So basically, I was trying to get full damage build, but with a lot of HP and defense subs. She doesn't necessarily need immunity because she does have a self-cleanse, but she doesn't self-cleanse right away. So her skill 3 increases attack of the caster for 3 turns, which is nice because she can self-attack buff herself before doing her skill 3 damage, so you don't have to necessarily bring an attack buffer. Leaps up to attack all enemies and decreases hit chance for 2 turns, and increases her CR by 50%. So after she does this, she's going to lap a lot of people in your team, or at the very least, if you've got her slow enough, she'll actually catch them. And then be more regularly speed tuned, but it depends on how you're trying to run her as to what you want to do with her there. You can see I haven't skilled this up yet. Then her skill 2 is kind of complicated. Let's come back to that one. And her skill 1 is really, really good, actually. Also not skilled up, but attacks the enemy with a Morning Star, 35% chance to defense break. That skills up to 100% chance when the caster is granted Demon Mode, which is her passive, grants her an extra attack with the same skill. So think of Alencia. You know how strong Alencia's skill 1 is when she defense breaks and attacks into the defense break and kills something? This is essentially the same thing. So you get that defense break, it's still 50% chance, but if you burn into it, it's 100% chance, and Demon Mode gives her ignore resistance. So you can potentially nuke high res targets, or at the very least, defense break high res targets. People were trying to bring, I was using her in RTA today, people were trying to bring ML Ken into her, and he would counter into her the first time, she would survive, and then when she had Demon Mode, she would just 2-turn defense break him, and even if she didn't get her second attack to be able to attack into the defense break, once he's defense broken, he's pretty much dead. So being able to land that guaranteed defense break, you're going to get the win on the MLKen. So it worked really well. Also, I really like Scythe because it does help her heal. I'm not sure if it's the best artifact yet. We're going to be testing out a bunch of different builds over the next few days, but that's what I'm using for now. Now, onto her passive. It's a little bit complicated, but I'll try and simplify it as much as I can. Basically, when somebody dies, it activates her passive. When it's activated, it cleanses any debuffs. It grants Demon Mode for 2 turns, which is what we just talked about, and it can only be activated once every 5 turns. So we'll start with that part. The Demon Mode, really strong. It means your stuff ignores res, but it also means that you're immune to debuffs. So if you kill something like Arby, he dies, you get Demon Mode, he comes back to life, and you can't get blinded. So he's actually quite good into things like Arby. Anything that has debuffs, really, as long as you can get a kill first, you're immune to debuffs, and you're probably going to be able to solo him. So one of the questions I was getting is, why is she better than SSB? Why would you not just bring SSB in the same spot? Because they're very similar. But that's a good reason right there. Being immune to debuffs is really important. Whereas SSB would get blinded, but once she's blinded, she's pretty much dead. Not only can you not get debuffed, but then you have your guaranteed defense break the next turn with an extra attack. Makes her very strong into units like Arby. That is assuming you can survive his skill 3. Now moving on to the rest of the passive. Only 5 turns. Every 5 turns, I mean. So the fact that this only procs every 5th turn means that once it goes down and demon mode is gone, she is not nearly as scary. So if you do proc her demon mode, all you have to do is wait it out and hopefully survive until that's gone. That can be easier said than done, but keep that in mind. The next part of her passive, when attacking an ally except for the caster, she's going to have a 16% chance to counterattack. So that maxes out at 20%. But keep in mind that that's on every single unit. So think Elbrus Charles. You attack. I mean, a lot of Charles are on counter, so you're going to get a counterattack if it's the counter from her. But you're hitting 3 different units at 20% chance each. The math doesn't actually stack up. But you're going to have a very good chance, like it's going to be around 50-50, whether or not she's going to counter you. And that counter happens to be an AoE. So she counters with Iron Strike. Iron Strike takes priority over her counterattack. So if you have her on counter gear, and she would have countered, then you're going to get her Iron Strike instead of her actual counterattack. Iron Strike itself attacks all enemies, decreasing buff durations for 1 turn and making them unhealable. So this can be really strong if you have Demon Mode already. If you have Demon Mode when this counter happens, you have an irresistible passive strip, which is really nice. So say Elena puts up her skill 3 with invincibility and res buff. This is going to reduce the durations of that guaranteed by 1 turn, which means you get rid of the invincibility because she hits when she puts up her skill, and you have at least around a 50% chance to counter. If you counter, you're going to get rid of all that invincibility, and also at the same time, you're going to put up the heal block, which is really nice. So, with all that in mind, let's take a look at her stats. Well, I guess we already looked at her stats, but basically with this, we're relying on her getting at least 1 counter and her ideally killing something. She's a little bit squishy. I will probably tanking her up a little bit. I'll probably make her a little bit more tanky. But let me show you a build from a Guildie, because this is obviously not ready to go. She's only +2. She's not awakened yet. Let's bring this up. Alright, so this is the build of a guildmate of mine. 3,600 attack, so about 500 less attack than mine. But it's got 200 more defense and about 1,000 less HP with way more speed than mine. But less crit and about the same crit damage. So this one also is on speed and crit. I was mentioning you don't necessarily need the immunity because you do have that cleanse. The thing is that cleanse only works when you kill somebody, so I definitely prefer immunity, but maybe at his speed he's killing something right off the bat and she's getting her buff. As long as he kills something before the enemy moves, then he's good to go. But yeah, so those are the 2 builds that I really like on her. I know a lot of people are building her on counter. I don't want to say speed is better, but it's going to be easier for you to build, and she doesn't really need counter. She has a defense break on her counter, but it doesn't trigger the Iron Fist or anything, or what is it called? Doesn't trigger, what's it called? Iron Strike. Doesn't trigger Iron Strike. She doesn't really need counter. I think taking the speed is better, but it's up to you. If you have really good counter gear, you can put her on counter, and that will work as well. But those are the 2 builds. Let's jump over into the clip from stream, and I'll try and comment my way through it. Nice. I was a little worried that wasn't going to work. All right. So you can see I did first pick her. We were just first picking her, just not because she should be first. Whoops. Oh man. I really forgot that was part of stream. That's my dog. If you've never seen Cassius before, um, he was being a bit of a pest during stream. Anyway, you can see we were first picking her. I went with Landy because he went a bunch of buffs with the Cecilia and with the maid. He follows up with the RB. So at this point, I don't even remember what I picked, but I think I went Haste because he does have the 2 revives here. Maybe not. Maybe I went Singelica. All right. So I went Singelica for the attack buff. Attack buff really good, obviously, for Landy. Doesn't really do much for Rem, but still not too bad. At least if she counters, if she has attack buff early before her skill 3, then it helps with that. It did follow up with the Strays. He goes with Cerise. The Cerise is a bit of an issue here because I don't have a cleanse other than the Rem cleanse. I don't really need I'm not really worried about the restrict, but the slow can obviously be debilitating. That and the only high res unit I have in this team is Singelica. He also finishes off with the Kize. And I know the Kize can kill me, so I'm willing to gamble on the Cerise here. This isn't probably the best comp for Rem, but I think it was a really good example of how strong she can be if things go right. She's very RNG, and you kind of need things to pop off a little bit, but they definitely did in this fight, so I figure it's a good one to show. We go ahead with the Kize ban because we know that she's just going to kill something. I have no damage reduction here, so if she gets a turn, she's just going to nuke me. And if she procs Greater Attack, she's going to probably be able to kill my entire team with her skill 2. So we get rid of her. He does ban our Singelica, which means we do have to deal with the 2 revives, and honestly, at this point, it looks like we're going to lose. Like, this is not a good draft, but don't worry about the draft portion of it. He does outspeed me. I do have a fast Sigrid in this video. He outspeeds me, and because she doesn't have immunity, he lands all 3 debuffs on her. She misses her turn. Arby goes, nukes the Sigrid on turn 1, and he's almost dead. The Strays as well. We decided to go into the Strays. You guys have seen my Strays build in the previous video. If you want to check that out, feel free. But without attack buff, he's not going to be able to kill either, and he just barely leaves that Cecilia alive, which is really bad for us because we are going to go after her, and she's going to put up skill prevent. So it looks like we're in huge trouble here. We're basically dead. We do have invincibility, and we have Scythe on Rem, but the FCC goes to put up skill prevent, and this is where things start going our way. So she procs her counter. That gets rid of all the skill prevents and gives heal block, which is pretty helpful because there is a maid there. We go with our skill 3 on the Landy. Unfortunately, she didn't have attack buff, so his entire team dies. Or sorry, his entire team lives. Now she's going to go with her skill 3 and strip, which is really bad for us because that gets rid of our invincibility on the Strays. She doesn't counter. Rem doesn't counter, but it is her turn, so she's going to use her skill 3 here. And she is relatively low health, so we're going to get a Scythe heal out of it. She gets 2 kills. She can't be debuffed now, so remember that. Also, the Arby's only died once, so this isn't his counterattack, but she still has her buff. So this kills the Arby. He comes back to life, but can't kill her because, can't debuff her because she still has her passive up. He decides to AoE, kills everybody except for her. She lives with 0 HP, but she counters on her attack. Heals back to full. He gets the team up into the Arby. We survive the team up, and now because we still have the buff up, we can burn into the S1. and it's going to not only hit and defense break, but it's going to hit again. And similar to a Charles or an Alencia, that's going to proc into 2 people and kill them both, and she wins the fight. So we end up getting the Rem solo there. Let's jump back over into the game. Um, really nice for her. I mean, I can't think of a much better way to highlight her than that particular fight. That, keep in mind, was only 5-star awakened and with 2 skill ups. So she did have a 16% chance to counter per unit hit. The first time that she countered, there were 3 units on the field. The second time, there was 2 units. So you'd have to do the math on that. That could have been even higher. Plus, her damage could have been significantly higher if we had her skilled up. I just don't have the molas right now. But hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of kind of where she's going to fall. She'll probably be in that bruiser-ish comp. She also could be used for Wyvern. If you don't do RTA and you're looking for a Wyvern defense break, you can just skill her up to +4 on her skill 1. And it'll give you 50% 2-turn defense break with pretty good damage. You could put it on Rage if you want to. And then maybe a damage artifact like Joker for Wyvern would be really good. But lots of options for her. I think she is the one unit in the collab that you're going to see a lot. As for the others, we're going to test them tomorrow on stream, like I mentioned. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gives you guys some ideas of how you want to build her and what sort of gear you're looking for on her. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We're really close to 4K followers on the channel. I would love to hit that milestone. So if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. Otherwise, I hope you have a great night, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.